I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you had an amazing 2025, and I wish you the best 2026 ever. Today, my guest is Michael Kopf. First, check out our films. Doors of Perception is on Amazon Prime. Occult Louisiana is on Tubi, Roku, Apple, and more. We're having a fundraiser for film number 3. We have just put out an announcement about the film, including the plot summary as well, so please go check out the previous episode that we just released to find out more about that. We are booking guests for February. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome Michael Kopf. He is an experiencer, researcher, traveler, and author of the Awakening series of books. He has experienced paranormal and psychic phenomena from a very young age, which he has documented and discussed in his books and podcasts. Michael, welcome. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on, man. Really looking forward to this discussion. You are the first guest of the new year. Very excited for that. Today we're going to share your paranormal experiences and insights with the audience. As I mentioned in the intro, you've experienced paranormal and psychic phenomena from a very early age. Over the years, you've done some great research into the esoteric connections between paranormal phenomena, UFOs, and the human experience in general. There's a lot we can discuss. Before we do, let the audience know a little bit about yourself, also how they can find out more.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, my name is Michael, and I am a paranormal investigator, and I've been with teams or actually paranormal investigating since 2018, and I got into the paranormal as I was having experiences ever since I was a kid, and so pretty much feel like I grew up in it. And one of the funny stories about my childhood and everything was my parents would talk about a haunted house before I was born that they lived in and the experiences they had. And then I would talk to them about conversations, and they were like, wait, these conversations happened before you were born. And so I was like, well, I can't explain how I know these conversations, but so it's kind of, I guess you could say, in my blood, so to speak. And I find it interesting researching the unexplained and trying to figure out why is it unexplained, and is there, how many possibilities can we explain it? And so it's like a puzzle to me. And so that's my joys. And I was asked to do podcasting, and at first I turned them down, and then a couple of years later I got asked again and took them up on the offer, and I've been going strong since, and I am the host of The Energy That Surrounds Us, Riding Through the Unknown, and I co-host with Kel Ridley and Enoch Smith, Paranormal Versus, and I also co-host the Beast System with Emily Men's and so I'm grateful for all those opportunities, and that is my paranormal journey in as much a nutshell as I could
Well,
make
right
it.
on. Thank you for that. You're a busy man. I dig it. Where should we start with your earliest paranormal experiences? I'd like to hear about how everything started for you.
Well, my earliest experience that I got memory of and have been learning over the years happened when I was 2 years old. And so I was up north, and the reason I say that is because our house had a basement, and so people may not understand in the South what a basement is. It's a level under the house for storage. And so I was on I thought was the attic, and I found out it was the second floor. And so my mom had put plywood over this vent opening because they were doing some work apparently on the house. And when I was up there, dressed in my winter clothes, so you can imagine in the 70s what the winter kids looked like up north.
Hmm.
Well, the vent was open. The board was moved for some reason, and I leaned over to see what was going on, and something grabbed me, and I fell into the vent shaft. And I'm going down this vent shaft, which you can imagine is first, second floor, first floor, basement. That's quite a fast fall. Well, I started having memories of talking to some beings and saying, like, what's, going on, you know, if I'm going to do this in the future, I need to be able to do this. I need access to these gifts, these abilities, and having this really in-depth conversation, which when I remembered the conversation, my first take was, what 2-year-old has this awareness and foresight to even engage this type of conversation?
So you had these memories after you fell down the shaft or while you were falling?
The memories came as a teenager.
Oh,
It started coming and started unfolding even more when I got into my 40s.
so the memories are from that time period when you fell down there. Okay.
Right. And so I now look at it as I had to be pulled out of time, because you can imagine having this type of conversation, it is not going to be fit into falling down this shaft because there's nothing to hold on to. And so I then hit the concrete basement, get up, walk it off. No broken bones, no bruises, nothing, which was amazing. And my first memory was seeing this blue like light beam that just kind of set me down, and I was like, this is who I talk to. And when I was talking in my 40s with the podcast guest, she's in Greece. She picked up on my story, and when I was talking with her and said there were two beings. One being pulled you in by accident, and she goes, accident, with quotation marks. And the other being took me away from that being, and that's who I talked to. So I was like, okay, so this is interesting. And when I was talking with someone, somebody else mentioned when I was sharing this story, they go, it's interesting. You could understand the being. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, how did you know what that being was saying? And I said, that's true. I never thought about that, that I instantly could communicate with this blue being. And so that has been my origin story, so to speak, into the paranormal. And it's just constantly unfolding, and that's why I love this, is because pieces have come from my mom, come from the lady in Greece, come from my memory. And so it's amazing when you can sit down and put the pieces together and like the story starts to make sense.
Looking back, how can you tell that these weren't just dreams or false memories or things of that nature? How were you able to piece together everything in a coherent way, being that it occurred at such a young age?
I would say the reason I know it's not just a dream is a dream, you control things and you can make things happen. This was like watching a movie. There was no manipulating it. It's not like I could sit there and go, "Oh my God, I'm falling. Let's go onto a cloud, and change this." So everything is that. It was like everything just appeared, and it was as is. There was no feelings behind it. Even it was just literally like you just turned on TV, was watching an episode of something, and you're like, okay, done. And so I think what got me though interested into it was trying to understand, like you're saying, this is being so young, why would this happen? Why did they choose this time to introduce themselves or awaken me, if you want to use that term, to what's to come? And the only thing I can think of when I think about that is we all talk about having like contracts where we've agreed to do certain things in this life. And I feel like I knew if I was going to accomplish even half of what my contracts were, I had to get started early, but not so early. So what's interesting about it is this experience was when I was 2. Then in my preteen to teenage years, I got introduced to shadow beans. And then it was like my 30s, I kind of got introduced to some more stuff. So there's blocks of time in between. So it's not like I got hit and was like, "Ooh, the paranormal world's just swamped me." No, there was a little here, a little there, and stuff was going on in my life to where I was forced to do introspective work to try and figure out why things were going on in my life at the time. And so I think having these experiences mixed with that going on is what truly, really awakened me to the world is so much more than what we see. Because when you try to work on yourself and, you know, fix issues in your life that you think you created, you're forced to look outside of the normal box and into alternative means. And that awareness starts to open you up to things. And so the world starts unraveling, so to speak, but not in a bad way. It kind of unravels to reveal there's another world. And so it's like, oh, so which is the real world now?
Good question. Tell us a little bit more about how your experiences progressed growing up. You said there were gaps of time where you didn't have any kinds of experiences. You also mentioned shadow beings, so I'm assuming there was a spectrum of positive and negative experiences. Tell us a little bit about that.
So my experiences actually with the shadow beings have always been
Oh, really?
positive.
Okay.
The reason I say that is, and this is going to sound so strange, is when I would watch TV or just be sitting on a couch in a room, they would appear in the door frame and they would start encroaching in. But as you know, with shadow beings, when you turn and you see them, they disappear. And so it became a game to me of we're playing tag almost of how close am I going to let them come to me and be like, ha, I saw you, not this time. And so I viewed it as a
How old were
game.
you at that time?
I was probably, I would say, 12,
Okay.
13.
All right.
And I mean, they never did harm to me. It's like they never like would bang or makes sounds. It's like I would just see them out of the corner of the
Hmm.
eye. And so, and later in life, I would see them and I'd be able to see them start forming. And then people would shine lights on it. And I'd be like, and I'd get frustrated because I was like, I don't know who was just forming because you obliterated the shadow. So I don't know what was coming. So now I'm left with going, shoot, what? I really wanted to know if this was this person or if this was somebody else or who is here. And so that was my little deal is with shadows is getting frustrated when people not on purpose they're reacting and you saying like something's right here, they're obviously going to light it up so you can see, trying to help and not realizing. And so that's kind of the quirkiness of the paranormal field is everybody thinks they're doing everything right to help, and sometimes it whitewashes something else and you're like, ah,
Hmm.
missed a chance. Well, we'll hopefully get another chance, or maybe they'll come in another place and we can meet then. But it's a game of patience, and I used to tell people if you're not comfortable, one, sitting by yourself in a room for like an hour doing nothing, don't become a paranormal
Hmm.
investigator. And then I'd say, and the second thing is, if you're uncomfortable talking to yourself, don't become a paranormal investigator because we will sit in a room for hours talking to thin air. And if you're not comfortable doing that, then yeah, it's like paranormal investigating probably is not the road for you. But I mean, it's fun, but you don't always gonna get stuff, and so that's the other thing is you have to be patient and understand that you may or may not make a connection that night or during the day, and so you can't take it personal.
Hmm. All the experiences you've shared so far seem to be more of a positive nature. Are all your experiences pretty positive, you would say?
I will say on two occasions I have been growled at, but nothing came of it. It's more like they were warning me. And I do have one experience. I was sharing actually on my year-end special that I just did where it's not a negative, but it's not a positive really either. And what it was is I was standing on a bridge in a park near my house, and this bridge has no lights on it, and it's over water, and they call it Screaming Bridge. And the thing about it was, I was walking on the bridge trying to pick up, energy, see if something's out there. something wants to connect, and something inside me said to stop. And so I stopped right where I was, and I was like, I'm not feeling anything, but I can't go forward. And I take my flashlight out. I turn the flashlight on, and the toes of my shoes are literally where the concrete bridge has broken off. So if I had taken one more step, I would have
Oh,
fallen
wow.
onto concrete or ground or into the water. Thankfully, I listened to myself and stopped because, I may not be here if I didn't stop. One experience I had that is kind of funny. It turned out to be funny, but was a awakening experience for me was we had just cleaned out at this hospital, this area behind the hospital where they had the ovens when they would burn the sheets and everything after people being sick. Well, we had a guest host that night come and investigate. And one was in the crematorium, the other was in the ovens. And I was in there, and she's starting her process. And so I'm keeping a vigil eye so nobody disturbs. And I realize I'm diagonal from the door. And so I got to walk over people. And the reason I point this out is I see this white jacket start running for the door, and I'm started thinking, "Oh my God, what if this person comes in? They're gonna disrupt everything. How am I gonna handle this? How can I get there without being the disruption?" And they never come in, and I'm like, "Okay." And then I look, and the windows are covered over. So the white jacket I saw was already in the room, and the apparition running by. And so I'm waiting and waiting, and the guest finally finishes what she's doing, and she says, "Now, does anybody have an experience they want to share?" And I said to her, "We had an apparition run across the room while you were doing your thing." And she goes, "Why didn't you say anything?" I said, "I didn't want to interrupt you. I was trying to be considerate." And she goes, "I appreciate that, but in the future, next time, interrupt." And so we kind of laugh about that. That doing the nice thing, it was like it's nice, but not in the paranormal field. If something's happening, you need to call it out.
Hmm. You've also had some UFO sightings and encounters?
I have one encounter I had. I was finishing up a fundraising job that I was doing at the time, and there was this craft that was like sitting right here in the distance, and getting ready to put my stuff up, and I can't hear it over the traffic. And I mean, planes we can hear sometimes over the heavy traffic. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. I don't hear it, I just happen to see it. And I start packing up my stuff, and I look up, and it's in the same spot. And like 3 minutes have gone by. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go inside because I have to go check out, let them know that I'm done and that I'm leaving. And I come out, the object is in the same place. And my mind starts going, wait a minute. I know planes can hover before landing, but they're going to glide. They're not going to stay in the exact same spot. We don't have that capability in ships. And there's no propellers on it. So I was like, it's not a helicopter. And so I grab my stuff, I get to my car, look up, still there. Put everything in my car, still there. And I'm like, this is just bizarre because it's like, why is it here? What? And it was like, so imagine Twilight where the sky is that purplish, pinkish color. And this is just a black object. And it wasn't cylindrical like the cigar shaped ones. It was like, it looked like a box with a tail sticking, like the tail fin sticking up on it was like a box. And I remember looking at it and going, I can't hear it. It's not moving. It's in the same place by the trees. It's never moved. No matter where I stand, it's in the same
And
spot.
around what year was this?
This has to be. I'm
Around what
sorry?
year was this?
I would say around 2023.
Okay.
Or wait, no, 2020.
2020,
Sorry.
okay. And it wasn't a drone of any kind?
No, it was too big to be a
Right
drone.
on, yeah.
So if it would be like, imagine, so like this
Mm-hmm.
length, but then something sticking up in the
Okay.
back. And so there would be, yeah, I know of no drone
Right.
that looks like that and is that size. And I even was thinking, now you say drone like the Predator drones, but they have those X-wing type
Yeah.
foils, and this didn't have that. And so uh, to me, I call it UFO, and I know people call them UAPs, and I'm like, it's a UFO to
Right.
me. I'm not using UAP.
I'm with you on that. Did you have any other UFO experiences, maybe extraterrestrial?
I wouldn't say extraterrestrial that I can
Hmm.
prove, but I did have a incident that I seen, and I think it was around 2017-ish, where I was visiting my parents' house, and my house is like a 2-minute drive away. And something said to me, walk outside. So I walk in the front, and it's a clear night, one cloud in the sky. And when I look at this cloud, it's over my house. And all of a sudden, I see red and like yellow little bursts. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, well, there's no thunder. It's not ball lightning. They literally look like impacts. Like, because I watch sci fi movies. So, when the phaser or laser hits like the shields, it creates that little luminous
Mm-hmm.
burst. Well, that's what it was looking like to me. And so I started thinking, am I seeing a space battle? Because it's one thick cloud and it's above the cloud where the light flashes are. I didn't see any ships though. And I'm starting to question what I'm seeing. So I go and I get my mom, and I go to my mom. I go, "Do you want to see something interesting?" So he goes, "Yeah." And so she witnessed it as well. And I then had the thought after it was over, going, when I walked back in and saying, "Please, God, if this is a UFO battle, disintegrate the ships. Don't have them crash into my house. I don't think I have insurance coverage for a ship crashing in my house. So please don't let that happen."
Yeah, definitely. You don't want a UFO crash into your house for sure. Let's get into your research and some insights into the phenomena overall, whether it be ghosts, haunting, spirits, or even extraterrestrials. In my perspective, it does seem to be connected to human consciousness. There seems to be deep psychological implications as to how this manifests. The person's individual perception and perspective on reality seems to affect the nature of these experiences. I've heard theories about the nature of spirits and ghosts, for example, everything from deceased humans to archonic demons posing as entities to residual energy, a super spectrum, an information field that exists beyond our perception that could possibly communicate in some ways and manifest as what we perceive to be hauntings or ghosts. The possibilities are endless, but you have a unique perspective, being that you have experienced some of this phenomena yourself, and you've done paranormal investigating for a long time. So I'd love to get your insights into the nature of this phenomena, starting with ghosts and hauntings. Do you think that it is deceased human beings that we are communicating with for a haunting, for example?
Well, it depends on the situation. Now, you go to, say, Gettysburg Battlefield. There is a high chance you could be talking with a soldier or a civilian who was caught up in the battle because, unfortunately in time of war, there is, everybody tries to limit harm to civilians, but you can't guarantee where all the shrapnel and bullets are going to go. So accidental deaths happen. And so I think that leaves a mark, and that energy of that trauma to the land leaves a mark. And so in that instance, I would say you can have a high chance of connecting with a deceased person. Now, when we talk about, like you were saying, residual, if it's in someone's house and you see a lady walking down the hallway and then disappears, and that, it's always at the same time, it's easy to say that's residual and she's just going about her day. Well, my metaphysical background tells me, wait a minute, we live in a world where there's pockets where the veil between dimensions or timelines is thinner. And who's to say that lady is not on this earth, but is on a different earth or a different dimension, and we're seeing her walk by that window at that time, and we're witnessing someone going about their day.
Right on, yeah.
And somebody asked me, well, what about communicating with them? And I was like, well, we're assuming, even if they are residual, based on the time that they're dressed, they may not understand our English or our words, and so they may look at you confused. And we're assuming, oh, they don't have the energy to talk. Well, yeah, I'm sure they probably do. They just don't understand how to reply. Or vice versa is they may not be a culture or species or being that uses verbal communication. They may telepathically communicate. And so by us focusing on saying we don't hear anything from them, they can't communicate, we're missing out on possible communications because we're not open to, well, what are we hearing? What is our mind telling us? And so that is something I'm hoping in the years to come that the paranormal field will branch out and embrace and start to look into is, can we communicate telepathically with these beings? And start opening those doors and truly start to understand instead of just going, nope, they don't have the energy to talk or they're not developed enough to talk. So we're going to move on and thank you for your time. It's like, wait a minute. They could be sitting there giving you a life story and you just cut them off.
Let's talk a little bit about the dark side of paranormal. What are the beings and phenomena that are concerning to you that you think are the most dangerous?
The most dangerous, I think, would be, and this is just from my research, I haven't encountered any, would be the black-eyed children or the energies like the trying to think of the name in Japan, but it's known as the suicide forest, or certain cryptids, crossing their paths, because everybody wants to photograph and document, but there seems to be a lack of respect, in my opinion, sometimes that goes along with this. And so, and I'm talking about with the cryptids is, if you see a dog man walking by, leave it alone. Don't try, and follow it and chase it and, take its picture, because it's a being and, it has a vicious nature. And so if you know, antagonize it or encroach on it, it may view it as a threat and turn on you. And then you're going to be going, oh my God, this thing attacked me. Well, yeah, it attacked you, but not because it's an animal. It attacked you because it was defending its space. You encroached it without identifying or, asking permission. And so, what do you expect? And I think that's where I think a lot of problems come in the paranormal field is, people just don't view the cryptids or black-eyed children or any spirits as having a purpose or having a soul, so to speak, or having a right to exist. They view them as, we are going to document you. We're going to get our 15 seconds of fame. This will get us on TV. We're going to become, known as the people who got the photo that nobody else could get. And they don't think about what the cost to the other side is. And I think that's why the other side now is becoming more selective. And by that, I mean, I was watching on the History Channel, Haunted History, and they were talking about a hotel, for example, where there's ghosts that are constantly walking these halls, but only certain people see them. It's like they'll say a certain number of guests will see it. They've never seen it and they work there. And it's like, well, why is that? Well, the guests are there because they want to experience the paranormal. The people that work there, they're there just doing their jobs. They're not really interested in going, oh, what can we do to help you? Or they may be like, I don't believe in ghosts, so I'm never going to see one. And it's true. They most likely never will.
Mm-hmm.
But spirits, in my opinion, will be attached to or gravitate to people of certain light frequency who carry certain energy and have an aura of them of, are they going to respect the process? Are they going to respect me? And if the answer is yes, they're going to open up communication or try to open up. But if you're there just to get the photo and move on, they're probably going to be like, why waste our energy? This person's not going to do anything. And the thing about the dark side of the paranormal is some of it, I know I might get a little bit of blowback for this, but it's my personal opinion and experience that When investigators go in and they get scratched or pushed, they automatically go, oh my gosh, there's a demon here. Well, that creates an energy because you're calling that in because you're naming it. You're claiming that's what it is. And so the energy is going to give you what you want or what you're asking for. And so my hope is people will stop just using that word like it has no meaning, because words do have meaning. And an example that I'll share with you that's really sad but is really eye-opening is I was told this by the Warren Legacy Foundation. We were doing a show and they shared with me they had a case where a mother called up the Warren Legacy Foundation and said, I need your help. I think there's something wrong with my son. I think something's going on here. And they said, we'll be there as soon as we can. We can't come right away. And she goes, well, I got another paranormal team coming. They said, that's fine. Well, the team comes and investigates and leaves the house saying, well, your son has like 70 demons attached to him, and there is no hope for, him, in our opinion, and leaves. The next day, the Legacy Foundation gets a phone call from the mom, and she says, you don't need to come. And they said, no, ma'am, we promise we can help your son. We'll get everything taken care of. And she goes, no, you don't understand. My son took his life because of what this paranormal team said. And it's like, that's the part about where I think is the darkest part of the paranormal field is people who go out and make these claims and make these comments to people and not really think about the impact of what that statement will make. I mean, in all seriousness, we were questioning even, does this paranormal team even have experience dealing with demons? Would they even really know a demon if they met one? Mm-hmm. Could it have been an angry spirit that they misidentified? And why would you say to somebody you have 70 attachments and no hope? Because there are people that can remove attachments. And so that's where I feel like the paranormal field's truest dark side is the people that go out and do their thing and don't have any empathy towards how they're leaving the location.
Have you had any experience with what you understand as demons?
I don't know if it was a demon or not, but I do have a story of I was in a room outside of the attic in a house where we were investigating with two guest investigators, and it was my first time there, and I was told to stay up with the lady that was doing mediumship style communication, and the rest all went to go get one of the guest investigators that the spirits were calling for. And while I was up there, I could feel something starting to like try and grab my arm, and what it felt like was like a burning sensation on my arm. Almost like I would almost say too is like somebody was trying to twist the bone in my arm, like trying to hurt me. And they couldn't do it because I was aware and I have protection that I wear with me. And I started communicating with the spirit through the medium, and I was like, "Are you trying to grab me?" And it goes, "Yes." And it goes, "Do you know who I am?" And they go, "No." And so I say my name, and I say who I'm descendant of, and then there's like this quiet, and I could feel the energy shift, and I go, "You're afraid of me now, aren't you?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "You're not gonna you realize you cannot harm me or touch me now, don't you?" And they said, "Yes." And the situation stopped. Now, it could be a really angry spirit that was just trying to torment me a little bit, have its fun, or it could have been a demon. I don't know, but I don't go and claim, yeah, I've stood, my ground against a demon because of this, because I don't know. And honestly, I have friends that are demonologists that do deal with them, and so I have great respect for them. But I also feel like if you are going on, say, 40 investigations in a month, and 30 of them you claim are demons, something's not right. Because demons are not that prolific, in my viewpoint, on this planet doing stuff. They have other things they're doing, they have other things to do. They're not all gravitating into certain areas and just hanging out, waiting for investigators to come or families to move in the area so they can go and play. It's very rare. And even the demonologists that I talk with are like, yeah, I don't often come across, but I have. And so that's the other reason why I've come up with the theory and viewpoint of there's not as many demons on this world as people would like us to think there are. And if you notice somebody constantly saying, "Oh my gosh, yeah, we dealt with another one," chances are, if you look at them at the end of that episode, if they're like smiling and they're like, "Yeah, we did it. We survived this location and we faced a demon and walked away, and we're all," chances are they're just doing that for ratings and it's not real.
Now, putting aside
Because
the term demons, I've had guests on, such as Nathaniel Gillis, who has a very unique and interesting perspective about the paranormal in general. He does believe it's all connected, even heavily to UFOs and extraterrestrials, that it may be all the same intelligence posing as different kinds of phenomena to different people based on whatever agenda they are trying to achieve based on the communication. Negative spirits, tricksters, if you want to call them, that have the ability to pose as anything essentially. From what I understand, there are trickster beings that can manipulate perception and present themselves as different kinds of entities. How can we tell what we're dealing with? How can we tell if it's all not the same thing, like Nathaniel Gillis's theory, that intelligence that is essentially a parasite in human consciousness that poses as whatever it wants to, essentially? What are your thoughts on that possibility?
Well, first off, I'm surprised because I've never heard of Nathaniel, but I have a very similar theory that I have just come across within the past few months of thinking about, because we're living in a world where we're talking about disclosure and meeting ETs and first contact. Well, how do you determine how first contact should go? You send out a scouting party ahead. Well, what if some of these shadow beings that as I was talking about with some friends, I said, what if, in the corners, these shadows are really the ETs looking and going, how would these people react if we just showed up?
Mm.
And testing the waters and using like paranormal investigators as guinea pigs to say, okay, if we show up in this form,
Mm.
this is what's going to happen. If we show up this way, this is what's going to happen. And so, what if all the, not all, but a lot of these hauntings or experiences in open land really are ETs running experiments on, the best way to reach out and say
Mm.
hello? And we're misinterpreting it because we don't recognize what we're seeing in our mind. Let's be honest, if we saw a, let's say, mantis being standing in front of us, our mind is programmed to go into a horror movie, making the
Right,
image look
right.
scary, and emotions go scared. And so, yeah, I'm kind of with Nathaniel on, a lot of some of these experiences that people are getting where the communication doesn't make sense for the location or
Mm.
who they think they're talking to. Maybe an
It's
extraterrestrial wanting to make
Yeah,
contact.
man, it's very interesting. I love getting all the different theories and perspectives. Earlier, you mentioned you have a form of protection when you're doing your investigations. From what I understand, there is a possibility of having some of this phenomena follow you. It opens you up to other types of paranormal intelligences that may not be as friendly. Have you ever had that? Are you concerned about entity attachments, and what kind of protection do you use?
I used to be really concerned about it, and I would do sage, I would do Palo Santo, all the big name things that everybody says will clean the aura field and clear the field. And I would do it after I was done before I got in my car. But I also, under, being raised in metaphysics, declare universal law that when I get in my car, whatever is there doesn't have to stay there, but they do not have permission to enter my car, any car of anybody I'm with, any person I'm with, myself included. So they can go wherever they want to go, but they can't come with me. And even coming home, there were times where like family would sit there and say, I think you got an attachment. And I'd feel my field and be like, I don't think so. But I would spritz myself with sage. And I thought everything was okay and that I was doing really well at keeping myself protected. And I had an experience where I walked into a portal and I was physically drained, and literally people were talking to me and I had no idea. And the only reason I know this is it was filmed. And the team leader I was with tapped me on my shoulder and I fell right away to the metal flooring in this jailhouse in the cell area. And I came to and was like, what's going on? And they're like, we need to take you outside. And so I went outside and grounded. And I couldn't believe that I had fallen into a trap of a portal because I could always sense where portals were before. And I talked to a friend of mine in Colorado, and he said, well, this probably was a unnatural portal, meaning someone created it unknowingly and left it open, and that's why I couldn't figure it out. and he recommended getting what's known as a quince seed. And what this quince seed does is it creates an energy barrier 3 feet around you that nothing can enter and nothing can leave. So that's the one trick about it is if you put a quince seed on, if you have an attachment, if you don't remove it before you put the seed on, that seed will keep that attachment on you. It won't be able to leave. But another one can't come on and attach to you. And I have to say, since I've started wearing the quince seed for probably 2, 3 years now, I haven't felt anything attached to me on investigations. I have them above our doors at my house, so nothing can enter. Even if I open the door, it can't enter and cross the field. And so it's interesting at times because I'll feel like something's off and I'll notice one of the quince seeds might be removed, like something pulled the push pin out of the wall and now it's on the floor. And I'll be like, okay, clean this area, put the push pin back in the wall, and it's like everything returns to normal.
This is another part that's very interesting and difficult for me to wrap my mind around is the protection aspect, the power of different beliefs and how it affects different situations, different kinds of phenomena as they unfold. I've heard from some researchers that you have to have a specific kind of prayer, that you have to be in a certain state of mind in order to have protection. There's many different methods that people have expressed over the years of how to protect themselves from ghosts or the paranormal or demons. And it seems that each method is very different but can yield different results, but it also depends heavily on the experiencer's belief system. From the experiences that I've heard about, it seems that the most effective deterrent for negative spirit encounters is based on that individual's belief system. So if they believe they're being attacked by a demon, they will resort to Christian prayers or a Christian exorcism of some kind. It's very interesting how that can differ so dramatically between each person's experience. This goes to another grand possibility of what could be unfolding with paranormal phenomena is egregores, thought forms, the power of the human mind and the power of individual psychic energy, dormant psychic energy that we are not aware of that could be expressing as paranormal activity. I know the mind is so unbelievably powerful, and we know very little about the capabilities that the human mind and human consciousness has. It opens up bigger questions as to what we're experiencing with paranormal. Could it be coming from our own minds?
I think it's very possible, and probably I would say about 90% accurate because having the metaphysical background I have, I come from a background of intention is everything. By that is, if I have the intention of entering a building and coming face to face with a negative entity, I'm going to come face to face with a negative entity. My energy is pulling it in. That's my purpose. That's what I asked for. If I go in and say, everyone's like, you can't go in this one room, everybody that goes in there has stuff thrown, and I go in there with the intention, nothing's going to get thrown, nothing's going to hurt me, nothing will hurt me. It's almost like an invincibility. The only thing is, and this is the tricky part, is In the metaphysical world, we view intention as your power, your inner power. And so if you have an ounce of doubt that you actually can do this or have this power, then that power will fail. You've put a chink in the armor, so to
Yeah.
speak. And so I have seen where, people will have an attachment, someone does a prayer on them, attachment goes away. I think that's great. More power to them. That's the power of their belief. Their intention is this prayer will clear me. It cleared them. So that the one key thing to me though is people have to realize is everybody is right, everybody is wrong.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the intention is what's driving everything, not this person's ritual saved me. No, your belief
Yeah.
and your intention that that ritual worked is what saved you.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
And that's where the disconnect, in my opinion, is everybody views somebody else did this, so they're the master, they're the one that understands. We have to have them there because they're the one that can help, and they don't take responsibility for themselves and take into account their own power. And I have gone into a room where an ex-girlfriend said she can't go in this room because she always has the negative feelings and everything. And I walked into that room and she was standing right next to me. And I actually said out loud with full authority, I said, under universal law, if you are not here for the highest and best intention, you have to leave. And she said that room instantly got better. And she was like, you need to come over more often. I said, no, this is how you do it. And I turned and told her to say this and to own it and believe it and have no doubt in your mind that this will work because that's the key. And it was like my way of programming her intention to do what she wanted it to do and not rely on someone else. Whether she continued or not, I don't know. But that's my goal when I talk with people and try to help them is teach them how to take care of stuff that's going on around them themselves and not have to rely on calling somebody else in because we really don't know who we're calling in and we don't know who we're calling in, what they're going to do. And so it's better when you can do it yourself and rely on yourself and have your own self power. And there's no problem calling in paranormal people to help you with it, but just don't rely on them.
Last few minutes, earlier you mentioned black-eyed children. I'm always fascinated about these kinds of stories. Have you heard any very interesting stories about black-eyed children or any profound encounters in general that we could close out on?
Actually, it's interesting you say that because as a podcaster, I have been trying for 3 seasons to have someone come on and share who and what the black-eyed children really are. And I actually finally have a guest who will be, let me check my schedule so I don't get this confused. My third episode, on the 13th of January, on the energy that surrounds us, I finally got a guest coming on to share her experiences and research into the black-eyed children.
Great.
So I am so excited. And what I have come across and learned is they seem to be attracted to people who are in low energy states, meaning if you're depressed or you're feeling off and not yourself and not your usual self, you're
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, that's when they're going to appear. And they're there to take advantage and to siphon energy. And a lot of spirits and negative entities, that's what they feed on, is fear and everything. And so they show themselves and manifest themselves to those people who they can latch on to and have an unlimited source, so to speak, of food. And I know it sounds strange to refer to humans as food, but that's, in my research, that's really kind of what we are, is energetic food. And
Mm-hmm.
if you get someone in a depressed state, you can find them most likely having lots of attachments on them because everybody's wanting to get their piece of the pie, so to speak, and feeding, and that person isn't going to shake them off because they're already in a state of mind where they're like, there's no point. They've pretty much given up. And so they're not going to fight you. So why not take advantage of it? And so that's something that I think in the paranormal field, I would kind of like to see a little bit more attention to, is, getting the history. Was this a joyous person that's now starting to seem like they're giving up on everything? Well, why? What happened? What changed? And if they're like, well, nothing really changed, but they're now doing this, then it's like, well, wait a minute. There could be an attachment. Let's get someone here who can scan them and see if they have an attachment. Or, look at other things then going, oh yeah, there's a evil dark spirit here that's, we'll remove them and everything's fine. Well, yeah, there could be a dark spirit there, but that may not all be what's there. And so stop looking for the quick, easy answer and really look to see what really is going on there.
Right on. Michael, thank you so much. Before I let you go, let the audience know how they can find you out there, pick up your books, podcast, all the good stuff.
So my books are available right now on Amazon, and you can find them by looking up my name. I have an author's page. And my podcast shows, you can find them on YouTube, Rumble, LinkedIn under my profile. I try to be everywhere. I have a Spotify channel as well. And I gave Chris my link tree, which has all the links.
Michael, thank you so much. Definitely love to talk again in the future. Until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We will talk again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Hello friends, I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order.